Hi everyone, my name is Vanessa van Dijk, and in this video I want to show you the difference between wellness food and real food, because this is where I personally spent the most time confused. For a long time I could not see the difference because it looked normal to me. And what I mean with wellness food is basically a version of food where a real whole food was taken and then prepared with other things until it became something different. This is, in my opinion, one of the biggest issues when you live in an unnatural food environment, because you do not see what happened to the food anymore. You just see a meal. And because it looks much better than the ultra-processed version, you think you're already eating real food. But that was exactly the mistake I made. This way of eating was convenient for me for a very long time. It came from meals I prepare myself through recipes, but also from food boxes like HelloFresh, where you order the box, choose your menus, and then cook the meal at home. So it feels like real cooking, and I do not want to criticize that, because it really helped me grow. It also helped me learn how to cook, how to put meals together, and how to become more aware of food. But at some point I also had to see that this was still not the same as eating real food in its simple form. And if you want to improve your skin and your health, this is where I would personally start. So first I want to show you the images with meals that I now see more as wellness food. And in the first two images you can see pasta style meals. And this is actually a good example because they look homemade, colorful, and much better than a ready meal or fast food. But this is not just real food anymore. This is food that has already been turned into a recipe. You have pasta, fillings, sauce, cheese, toppings, seeds, oil, seasoning, and a lot of hidden sodium inside the meal. And if your digestion or your skin reacts after this, what are you supposed to blame? I mean, you cannot really know because you did not eat the food in its natural form anymore. You ate the whole recipe version of it. And this is where it starts to become very confusing, especially if not much has improved for you, because it looks like real food, but the actual food is already hidden inside a prepared meal. And it gets even trickier with the next images, because these meals look much closer to what you would call healthy food. You can see the fish style meals here, and this is where it gets even harder to notice, because fish is real food, rice can be real food, and vegetables can be real food. So you look at the plate and think, well, okay, this is definitely healthy. But once the fish is covered in a creamy sauce, or the salmon has a crust, or the vegetables and rice are prepared with the seasonings, oils, and other things around them, you are not eating the food in its simple form anymore. You are eating the changed version. And it is not like this is the worst food in the world, but if you're trying to create a stable baseline for your skin and digestion, this is still not the food in its simple form. It is still covered in sauce, crusted, seasoned, and turned into a wellness meal. And you might even think fish does not work for you when you actually never really ate the fish by itself. You ate fish with everything that was added to it. Now in the next images, you can see the more obvious versions. They still look very good, and I would say they are still built around a complete meal as often suggested. But now the potatoes are turned into fries, and the desserts are vegan and look homemade or high quality. Now we have the potato that was cut, fried, salted, maybe additionally even seasoned, and then eaten with sauce or dressing. So if you feel worse after eating it, you might think potatoes are the problem, but you did not really eat a potato as a potato. You ate it after it was turned into something else. And the same with desserts. They can look beautiful, homemade, even vegan, and that was something I fell for too, because it felt better than eating a cheap packaged cake. But it is still flour, sugar, plant milks and fats, salt, toppings, layers, and decoration turned into a dessert. So this is what I mean with wellness food. It is food that looks like a healthier version, but can still keep you confused because the real food has already been changed. And if we now compare that to the next images, which are the meals that are actually real food and are not manipulated in the same way, it becomes much more obvious. Now sometimes I added a few flakes of salt to my scrambled eggs, or some herbs, or a bit of garlic. Sometimes a little butter or cooking oil was used. But the difference is that the food was not put into sauces, marinades, broths, creamy dressings, or excess sodium. So you could actually taste the real food. Now in the first real food images, you can see fruit as a fruit, which is probably the most obvious example. The mango is still mango, the passion fruit is still passion fruit. It has not been turned into a smoothie bowl, a dessert, a topping, a syrup, or wellness recipe. It is just the food itself. And that matters, because then you can actually understand what the food is doing. In the next images, you can see things like whole fish, pumpkin, and squid. And I know this can look strange when you're used to food always being turned into something else. It almost seems like this is the strange version when the fish is not turned into a fillet, a sausage, or some other processed version. A whole fish can look weird, even unappetizing to some. And a simple plate like that can look unfinished. But that is exactly the thing I want you to see. The food is still recognizable, the fish is still fish, the pumpkin is still pumpkin, the squid is still squid. It has not disappeared under sauce, toppings, or recipe. And then with the potato, chicken, and eggplant, it is the same idea. The potato is still potato, the chicken is still chicken, the eggplant is still eggplant. There might be a little bit of salt, some herbs, garlic, butter, or oil, but the food is not being transformed into a completely different meal. You can still taste the food itself. And this is the difference I want you to see, because then you can create an actual natural way of eating. Wellness food can look much better than ultra-processed food, but it is still often food after it has been changed. Real food is the food before it was changed. And if you want to understand what food is doing to your skin and your health, this is where I would personally start. Because if you never eat the food itself, you are not really testing the food. You are testing the sauce, the dressing, the oil, the seasoning, the frying, the toppings, the cheese, the cream, the marinade, and the whole recipe around it. So before you decide that a food does not work for you, first make sure you have actually eaten the food itself, and not the whole wellness version around it. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!